Hello everyone. So today we will continue our studies on statistical physics. We have learned until now many basic definitions, basic terminology, and also we have seen some assumptions of or postulates of statistical physics. Now we will consider some universal laws in statistical mechanics. Okay. So today's topic or the title of lecture is Universal Laws in Statistical Mechanics. So here is the objective of today's lecture. The objective is simply clarified from the title itself. It is to understand the laws of statistical physics. And the outcome after attending this lecture, you will be able to learn about the definition of position, momentum, and phase space. These are very important terms which are going to be used in each and every derivations and every concept. So it is important to understand these all definitions. Then secondly, you will get familiarized with mu and gamma space as well as its application to harmonic oscillator. How we can implement this to get a derivation, to get a formula for the harmonic oscillator. And finally, you will learn about the postulates of statistical physics. So here is the content to achieve the objective of today's lecture. The first one, I will introduce you the degree of freedom in context of statistical physics. Okay, we have already learned degree of freedom in thermodynamic part, but now we will consider statistical physics to define degree of freedom. The second topic will cover position space, momentum space, and phase space. We will first introduce the definition, and then we will understand how we can apply these to some applications. So the third topic will focus on mu space and gamma space. These are the method of representation. It is actually telling the degree of freedom in two different ways. Now the next topic will be focused on the application part of these spaces like mu space and gamma spaces. We will apply these or even all the above things, position space, momentum space, and phase space. We will apply these definitions, these concepts for the application to one-dimensional harmonic oscillator. And finally, the lecture will close with the fundamental postulates of statistical mechanics. There are several points, basic points, which are considered as the fundamental postulates. Here is the list of reference books which you can consider. These are simply written and you can consider it reading by yourself. Language is very simple. They have contained everything. They have collected all the information and write nicely written. So let us start with the definition of degree of freedom in the context of statistical physics. So from the statistical point of view, any monoatomic gas constitute the simplest system. There is only one atom in that, so that will be of course simplest one, right? Now the energy expression for this kind of system involves F coordinates of position and F coordinates of momentum. There are two different coordinates. One is to tell position of that and one is to tell the momentum, because if that particle or that atom or molecule, if this is in motion, then position coordinates are not sufficient to define its state in that system, right? So if we are talking about the degree of freedom, this system of monoatomic gas comprising one molecule has F degrees of freedom, that we have already defined: F coordinates of position and F coordinates of momentum. So this system will have total F degree of freedom. Here we generalize this for F coordinates. Normally when we talk about degree of freedom for monoatomic, diatomic gas according to thermodynamic point of view, we said there will be three position coordinate and we can define it x, y, z. But here we are considering that there are F coordinates in a generalized way: F coordinate of position and F coordinates of momentum. So one molecule system will have F degrees of freedom, right? Now if we consider n molecules in the system, then the energy expression for this system will have total nf coordinates of position and nf coordinate of momentum. This is the point where this statistical mechanics or statistical physics is different from the regular thermodynamic physics or regular or classical theory, right? The different way. Why? Because in normal way we have considered that degree of freedom of any gas will be like only 3 or maybe 4 or 5, something like that, and we considered the molecules as a whole. We did not consider that for each molecule there will be a degree of freedom. So here we are considering for the system, if there are n molecules, then the degree of freedom will be nf, n molecules, and f is coordinate of position or coordinate of momentum for each of the molecule. So the n molecule system will have nf degree of freedom. Let us go to the second definition, that is position space. Now if we consider that these n particles are in a system that has volume B. Now the first assumption, we can define it in two ways. The first assumption, that this system is in static condition. That means all the particles of this system remains fixed. They are not in movement, they are not in motion, right? So at various point in space they are static. So to specify or to describe any particle, to describe the position of any particle, we need only three-dimensional space. We should know the three Cartesian coordinates that are given by x, y, and z. That is enough to define the position of any particular particle, right? And these x, y, z Cartesian coordinates, we know that they are perpendicular to each other. Now this is for one particle. We already know, we have already assumed that the system has n particles. So if there are n particles, a knowledge of 3n coordinates will give complete information about this static system, right? So we can define that the three-dimensional space in which the location of a particle can be completely given by three position coordinates is known as position space, right? If we consider the volume of that, then a small element in position space can be denoted by simply volume element, that is dv equals to simply dx into dy into dz. So this is the small element of volume dv. Okay, similarly, now this is the case of static system, but that is not the practical case. If we consider that the system is dynamic, that means particle is moving continuously with different velocity, and because of different velocity they have different momenta also, right? So it is not enough to have this position coordinates, Cartesian coordinates, to define the position, to describe the particle situation, right, in that system if it is in dynamic condition. So for dynamic system we should specify the three components of momentum with the help of velocity component. We have already, we can consider that the velocity of one particle is given by vx, vy, and vz, in addition to three coordinates x, y, and z. We know this, that x, y, z are position coordinate, and we are considering for a dynamic system that dvx and dvy, vx, vy, and vz are the velocity components in x, y, and z direction, right? Now if we consider that mass of the particle is m and the velocity is v, so the momentum of that particle can be given by, well, that is very basic formula, m into v. So if we consider the components of this particle, then the components will be px equals to mbx, py equals to mby, and pz equals to mvz. So similar to position space, the momentum of particle can be specified by three perpendicular momentum coordinates that are given by px, py, and pz, right, in three-dimensional space. And these px, py, pz are known as momentum space. And similar to position space, a small volume element in momentum space can be given by just simply multiplication of these components, that is dpx, dpy and dpz. These are the small volume elements. So dvx equals to dpx, dpy, dpz, right? This is about momentum space. Now we cannot actually, when we talk about the dynamic system, it is not possible to define only in the momentum space or in the position space. So we need to combine it together to make a new space. So phase space is nothing, it is a combination of position space and momentum space, and that is termed as phase space. So three dimension is from position space and three dimensions are from momentum space. If we are combining these two, then the phase space has total 6 dimensions or coordinates, including 3 position and 3 momentum coordinates. So all these coordinates, since we have already considered that all these coordinates are perpendicular to each other, so here also the same condition will apply. All the coordinates are perpendicular to each other, and the position of particle in such a space can be represented by 6 coordinates, that are x, y, z, px, py and pz. And similar to the position space and momentum space, the small volume element can be given by d tau. Here we represent this small element by d tau, and that is given by dx, dy, dz and dpx, dpy, dpz. So total multiplication of all the coordinates. Now we will see about mu space. We will see about this mu space, and since we have already seen the position space, momentum space and phase space to represent all the parameters like position, momentum, or if we do it together, so that are enough. But now if we consider about the energy of any particle or any molecule in the gas, that can be given by, we know the general formula, p square upon 2m, and if we split it into 3 components, that can be given by px square plus py square plus pz square divided by 2m. This is the energy. So we can say that energy can also be represented by momentum space. See here, momentum space was represented by these components px, py and pz, and now we are also representing this energy by using this px, py, pz. That means momentum space representation also give the representation of energy of the state. So this kind of 6-dimensional space for a single particle is called molecular phase space, or in short we can call mu space, or in mathematical form also we can represent by symbol of mu space. Right now it is quite clear, we can draw only 3-dimensional diagram, right? We cannot draw more than that. So 6-dimensional diagram cannot be drawn, and this is totally mathematical concept. We cannot specify on any paper or anywhere, right? We can maximum we can define 3-dimensional diagram if we want to draw it. So this diagram cannot be possible practically. It is mathematical concept, but it is very important for all the calculations related to statistical physics. Now let us consider that position and momentum of any one molecule is slightly changed, right? So the phase point of this molecule will also undergo through a displacement within the phase space, and the microstate of the gas molecule will be modified. We can say that microstate of gas is modified with the displacement of any molecule. The phase point of this molecule will change immediately if the position or momentum is modified, right? To understand this, since as I told you already that the 6-dimensional space cannot be plotted, but we can consider in another way to understand it more clearly. Let us consider that this mu phase space is divided into 2-dimensional energy sheet. This is the 2-dimensional energy set which will be representing mu phase space. Okay? So now here on x-axis this is having position coordinate, and on y-axis this is having momentum coordinates as px, right? Now if we divide this range of variable x and px into very small discrete intervals called as phase cells, this each of this partition is known as phase cells of arbitrary size. We are not defining the size of this right now. Now the minimum size of phase space cell can be defined, can be explained according to different theories. The first one was considered by classical statistics, and after the invention, after the discovery of Planck's quantum theory or photon theory, we can define, we can explain this energy sheet on the basis of quantum statistics. Okay, so first we will start the consideration of minimum size of this phase space cell according to classical statistics. Now, the meaning of any point in phase space is well understood with the help of Heisenberg uncertainty principle. Now let dx is the size of interval on x-axis, and correspondingly dpx is the size on the y-axis, right, on px axis, or we can say, right? Now if we divide the phase space into energy sheets of a smaller and a smaller energy range, the energy sheet thus consists of very small cells of equal area of dx into dpx, and that is we are considering equals to h0, right? Now the state of this system can be specified by locating a phase point within particular cell. We are now talking about this particular cell only, right? So the state of any system can be defined by any phase point which is lying inside this box, right, inside this phase cell. Now in classical description, the value of this h naught can be as small as possible. There is no restrictions on the size of it. It can be very small. Now we are considering that the length of dx and dpx is very small. That means if this phase point inside this box, if it moves slightly, if it changes the position and momentum, then the change in position and momentum is so minute that it cannot be measured, it cannot be detected by any experiment available now. As accurate as possible experiment cannot detect this change in the position or momentum of phase point, right? If this particle lies in the cell, this state can be represented by x and dpx coordinates, right? We are considering x and dpx coordinates. So we can represent the position by x and px at any one time. Now if there is a change in the coordinates of this particle, that means the state of particle is changed slightly. That means this particle will move from one cell to another cell, because we have already considered the size of this cell is very small, so that the change in phase point or the change in position and momentum cannot be detected by any of the experimental technique. That means if there is any change, it will go to another phase cell, right? So the dimension of this h naught can be represented by, since this is length and this is the momentum, that means Newton second. So meter into Newton second, that means we can convert as Newton meter is joule. So the dimension of this will be joule second, and joule is the dimension of energy and second is the time. So the dimension of h naught will be the dimension of energy into time. This is the explanation on the basis of classical statistics. Now let us consider to the quantum statistics, right? If we consider the concept of quantum statistics, in that case what will happen, because in classical statistics there was no restriction to describe the size, to specify the size of h naught. But after the discovery of Planck's quantum theory, the size of h naught was not allowed to go over zero. It cannot be that small. the nature itself has provided a finite and constant volume for the unit phase cell, right? After this discovery of Planck's quantum theory. Now we can say that what we have assumed dx into dpx equals to h. That is consistent with the Heisenberg principle, and that is given by dx into dpx minimum should equals to h, and the value of h is equals to 6.6 into 10 to the power minus 34 joule second. That is the Planck's constant. If we consider this equation relation, then dx dot dpx will be h, and now we can consider, since that time we have considered only this x and px, now we will consider it, we will extend it to the 6 coordinates, and according to that the dy into dpy will be equals to h also. The same thing will be happened for the z component, dz into dpz equals to h. So if we take the multiplication of all these three equations, what will it become? Dx dot dpx into dy into dpy into dz into dpz equals to h into h into h. That means h cube. If we collect it together, dx dy dz into dpx dpy dpz equals to h cube. And we already know that dx dy dz and dpx dpy dpz is represented by volume element, that is given by d tau. So d tau equals to h cube. That means in any mu space, the coordinates of particle can be specified only to the extent that is lying within the element of phase space of volume h cube. Okay, that is the assumption for quantum statistics. In earlier case, it was not decided. It can be taken as low as possible, as minimum as possible. But here, it should be specified of the volume h cube at the minimum, right? Now, this was all about the mu space. Now we will consider another thing that is known as gamma space. We have already defined the state of system which is comprising of n molecules. Now, if let us think, if we are describing a system of n molecules, there can be two different methods. One that we have adopted in mu space. What we have done, we have taken a 6-dimensional phase space, and each of that was for each particular points or each particular molecule, right? That representation was done by taking n points to represent the position and momenta of n different molecules, right, at one instant. Now the other method can be if we take directly 6n dimensional gamma space representation, where only one point can represent a state of entire n particle system. There it was taken 6-dimensional space for each of the particle, and then it was done for together for n molecules differently. Now we are making these n molecules to be represented by only one point system, right? And that point has total 6n dimensional representation, and that is known as gamma space representation. This is although in contrast to mu space, which refers to one point for one particle. Here the whole system is represented by one particle which is having 6n dimensions. Okay, although the representation of this gamma space is very difficult, because we are considering whole system as one point and we are taking 6n dimension. So the calculation is really difficult to handle, but this is beneficial to consider the state of whole system. Okay, mathematically, of course, it is very difficult. Now we will see the application of these mu space and gamma space to one-dimensional harmonic oscillator. There are many more applications also. We can use this assumptions, this concept to free particles also. There are several others, but for now we will consider only for one-dimensional harmonic oscillator. Now let us consider a linear harmonic oscillator which is having mass m, and it is oscillating with a frequency nu. We are defining here the frequency as nu. Now we will calculate the number of phase cells in the energy range of 0 to E. We will, because we have defined that there should be phase cells associated with each system. So for harmonic oscillator, now we will calculate the number of phase cells which is lying between the energy range of 0 to E. So the phase diagram contains one position coordinate x and one momentum coordinate p. So that means it is a px plane, right? Now at any moment, the total energy E of the oscillator will be equal to the sum of two energies. One is potential energy and second is kinetic energy, and we know the formula for each of the energy. So we write E equals to 1 by 2 kx square plus 1 by 2 mv square, where k is force constant, right? This is the potential energy and this is this is kinetic energy and this is potential energy. Okay, equals to, again if we solve it, we can multiply this term by m and divide by m. So it will become 1 by 2 kx square plus 1 by 2 m square v square upon m. We can convert this mv to p, the momentum. So it will become p square upon 2m. That means if we take these two that side, it will become 2e equals to kx square plus p square upon m. Now we are rearranging this and taking this 2e on the other side. It will become 1 equals to x square divided by 2e upon k plus p square upon 2me. So if you see here, this equation is nothing else. It is x square upon a square plus p y square upon b square. We can consider this is the y-axis, or we can say p-axis. We have seen already energy sheet. There we considered x-axis as x, displacement, and y-axis as momentum. So this one will become 1 equals to x square upon 2e upon k plus p square upon 2me. That can be represented by this equation: x square upon a square plus p square upon b square equals to 1, where a square is 2e upon k and b square is equals to 2me. So this equation represents the equation of ellipse with xp phase diagram, right? In xp phase diagram, the point of constant E lies on the ellipse with major and minor axis as 2e upon k to the power half. Here you can say a equals to 2e upon k to the power half and b equals to under root 2me. So this axis is under root 2me. Now if we consider the energy range from 0 to E, that will be phase area of this ellipse, that is given by pi into AB. We can put these values: pi into 2e upon k half into under root 2me, right? E's phase area will have an area of xi into pi equals to h naught. We have already seen that the each phase area should be the product of xi into pi equals to h naught. So the number of phase cells in energy range from 0 to E will be given by phi E equals to pi upon h naught into 2e into m to the power k half. Since you know each phase area has this area, right? And we have total area this one. So the number of phase cells in energy range will be this one divided by h naught. So we have done that. Phi E equals to pi into 2e upon 2e into m upon k to the power half divided by h naught. So this is the total number of phase cells in this range. But we know the frequency mu is given by 1 upon 2 pi into k upon m to the power half for any harmonic oscillator, right? So if we put this value in our previous equation, the change will be phi E will become E upon h naught into 2, or we can say E equals to phi E into h naught into nu. So if the oscillator is governed in a way that number of phase cells have integral values, then we will have E equals to n into h naught into nu. Okay, that means that energy can occur in only discrete state. You see here, n is an integer and h naught nu is the energy. So it will be in the discrete states only. It will not be continuous state and has the value of integral multiple of h naught nu. So this is about the application to one-dimensional harmonic oscillator. Now we will see our final topic, that is fundamental postulates of statistical mechanics. Actually, these postulates are nothing but all about which we have studied until now in our previous lecture as well as this lecture. After understanding all these concepts, all these definitions and different methods for statistical mechanics, we can summarize point-wise postulates of this statistical mechanics, and these are given by: the first point is any gas under consideration may be composed of large number of molecules which are always in motion and behave like very small elastic spheres. This is the first assumption, the first postulate, right? The second one is all the cells in phase space are of equal size. We have seen today that the energy sheet is divided in very small phase cells and they all are of equal sizes, right? The third point is all accessible microstates corresponding to possible macrostates are equally probable. See, from this postulate, from this postulate, T follows that the possibility of occurrence of any macrostate is proportional to the number of this microstate. Right? Anyone can follow that. The possibility of occurrence of particular macrostate is directly proportional to the number of these microstates. This, the probability Pe of system possessing the energy E can be proportional to the thermodynamic probability W. That means Pe is proportional to We, or we can write Pe equals to C into We, where C is the proportionality constant. The next point is the equilibrium state of a gas corresponds to the microstate of maximum probability. We have seen this when we learned about the maximum probability case, or the equilibrium state, the state of maximum probability. So this is also one of the postulates. Now the next one is related to the total number of molecules. The total number of molecules in any system is constant. This is in accordance with the principle of conservation of matter. Now let us suppose that N1 is the number of molecule in cell 1, N2 in cell 2, N3 in cell 3, and so on. So if we consider that small n is the total number of molecules, then small n will be equals to N1 plus N2 plus N3 and so on, Ni plus so on, Nn. This can be written as summation form, summation of Ni equals to n, and that will be constant. The next point is related to the energy of the system. We also know that the energy of system is also constant, and this is in accordance with the principle of conservation of energy. These two principles of conservations are important. Always this matter is conserved and energy is also conserved. So if we consider that E1 is the energy of each particle in cell N1, cell 1, and E2 is cell 2, E3 in cell 3, then the total energy will be given by E1 N1, because N1 is the number of molecules and E1 is the energy of each molecule in cell 1. So the total energy of cell 1 will be N1 into E1. Similarly in cell 2 it will be N2 into E2, and similarly so on it will go on, and it will be given E1 N1 plus E2 N2 plus E3 N3 plus so on, EI Ni and so on, En Nn. That can be written in summation form overall, and summation of EI Ni will be equals to total energy of system, that is always constant. So these all are the postulates of our statistical mechanics. Now we will consider some of the quiz question to judge our knowledge what we have learned today from the lecture. So the first question of today's quiz is: in a system having n molecules, the degree of freedom will be 3, 6, nf, or 1. We have defined already that any particle in system has f coordinates of position, f coordinates of momentum, and that's why each particle has degree of freedom of f. So that means if any system has total n molecules, it will be n multiplied by f. That means the right answer is option C for this question. The second question is, the total number of dimensions in phase space are 3, 6, 1 or not fixed. So we studied today that what is phase space. Phase space is a combination of position space and momentum space. So position space has coordinates x, y and z, whereas momentum space has coordinates px, py and pz. So if we are combining to form a phase space, it is having total 6 coordinates x, y, z, px, py, pz. So the right answer for this question will be option B. Option B, that is 6. Okay. The next question is, the probability of occurrence of two independent events is equal to their sum, difference, product or ratio. So the probability of occurrence of two independent events, that is, we have already studied about the probability concept, and that is the product of two independent probabilities. That means the right answer is option C. Now the next question is, 5 particles are distributed in two phase cells. The number of microstates will be 6, 10, 32 or 5 by 2. We have to consider our concept of macrostate and microstate. If these are in two different cells, what will be the microstates? That will be total 6, and the right answer is option A. We have seen the example with 4 different particles A, B, C, D in two cells, and there the number of microstates was n plus 1, and here we are taking 5 particles, so the number of microstates will be n plus 1, that is 5 plus 1 equals to 6. So the right answer is option A. The next question is, the probability of any event cannot be 0, 1, half or negative. So we have already studied about the probability that for any sure event, the probability is 1, and for any event that is not sure, the probability can be 0. That means the probability always lies between 0 and 1. That means it can never be negative. So the right option here is option D, that is negative. The next question is, the thermodynamic probability of a system in equilibrium is maximum, minimum but not 1, 1 or 0. So in equilibrium, the thermodynamic probability is maximum. We have seen the principle of equilibrium state. The state of equilibrium is defined as the state which is having maximum thermodynamic probability. So the right answer is option A. The next question is, the number of permutations of 4 objects taking 2 at a time will be 4, 6, 8 or 12. Now we are calculating the permutations, NPR. NPR is given by factorial n divided by factorial n minus r. So that means the calculation will be done. N is 4 and r is 2. So NPR will be 4PR equals to factorial 4 divided by factorial 4 minus 2. That will be factorial 4 is 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. That means 24 divided by factorial 2 means 2. So 24 divided by 2 equals to 12. So the right answer is option D. It is 12. Now the next question is, in the equilibrium state, probability is maximum, beta parameter of two systems are equal, both A and B, or number of particles is maximum. No, this is not the right answer for sure. Probability of course is maximum, and also beta parameter of two systems are equal if these are the in equilibrium state. That means the A and B both options are right. That means for this question, option C, both A and B is the right answer. Okay. The next question is, the probability of a sure event is 0, 1, infinity or not certain. Definitely, if it is a sure event, the probability will be the maximum, that is 1. So the right answer for this question is option C. The last question for today's quiz is: constraints imposed on a system increase the number of inaccessible microstate, decrease the number of inaccessible microstate, or have no effect. Of course, we are imposing the constraint. That means it will increase the number of inaccessible microstate. We have studied that imposing the constraint reduce the number of macrostate as well as microstate. That means increase the number of inaccessible microstate. The option A is the right answer. So that's all for today's lecture. I hope you have learned about all the topics which we have covered today. If still you have any doubt or any questions, please feel free to ask. Please feel free to comment on the video here on our YouTube channel of School of Applied Science, Suresh Gyan Bihari University. I would be happy to answer all the questions. If you want to send an email to me, I would reply you on email also. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for listening. Thank you so much.